Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Women's Eye Podcast. I'm your host, Stacey Gualandi. Now, building your money power in the new year? Well, financial planner Catherine Scrivano is here. Hi, Catherine.
Hi,
Hello.
Stacy.
Happy New Year. I think we can still
Happy
say
New Year
Happy
to
New Year.
you. Yeah. I think we're good for, a quarter, first quarter. We still
We can
should
still
say it's
say
new,
it.
right?
So, well, a lot of people right now are like, is this going to be a happy new year? Do I have enough money? An emphasis on enough. How much is enough money to feel that you are secure in your future?
The whole concept of defining the word enough is really fun because it's such in the eye of the beholder. What's
Yes.
enough for me may not be enough for you. So, yeah, it's a fun thing to explore.
Exactly. And yeah, because I'm always wondering myself, like I feel like I'm secure, but I'm always wondering, like, oh, do I need more? Do I need more? So we'll talk about that. And of
Yeah.
course, explore more about how we can stop worrying about how much money we all need to feel safe. But first, this episode of our Building Money Power series is brought to you by Catherine and her Casco Financial Group in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, Catherine started her business to help people create the financial strength to achieve their dreams. So again, great to be with you, Catherine. But in talking about financial security and all of that, when it comes to all your finances, your nest egg, and how much is really enough? I mean, is
Well,
there a
that's
blanket amount?
Oh, no, because we need to know what are the circumstances. Are we talking about how much is enough to retire? Is it enough to pay my mortgage and get out of the grocery store? I mean, for all of us, it's a matter of our own individual life and our own individual circumstances.
And when it comes to having enough money, I think that there's a couple of parameters that you look
Hmm.
at too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
what are those when it comes to how we feel? I guess we'll know when we have enough financial security or financial funds, right? When we feel peace of mind or
Right. And I always start with peace of mind. And I put the bar fairly low. When we talk about enough for peace of mind, I suggest that that's enough to meet our basic needs, to
okay.
make our basic living expenses. Do we have enough to do that? And of course, that implies that we've spent some time making a spending plan and knowing exactly what that number is. And then the next concept of enough is around independence. If I say I've got enough, for instance, enough income, that depends on my ability to be employed and be paid a living wage, or perhaps if I'm retired or not working, do I have enough in investments? And are they continuing to keep pace with inflation? So there's a lot of things, just kind of setting our expectations and having a plan to meet them will lead us to know what that number is that gives us the sense of enough.
Yeah. And obviously it seems like it will change as you go through your life too. You
Sure,
know,
sure.
do people maybe set their expectations a little too high or not high enough?
Well, it's again a case by case basis, but I will tell you that something I find absolutely fascinating because I'm such a numbers nerd that if you ask a question, generally I'm going to go to the software and do some what if scenarios and come back with likelihood of success. But there are some people who are never, no matter, there is not a number big enough that
Aha.
that would help them feel that they have enough. They're
They could
looking
be good
at
for
the,
5 years out or something, but they're
well,
still always
the,
worried, right?
and even people who are quite elderly, and we say, gee, you really could not live long enough to spend all of this money. are still very frugal and insecure about having enough. And I don't mean to dismiss that. I mean, that's a legitimate concern, but on the other side of the coin are people who are not considering what it will actually, everything has to go right for this number to be enough. They're not taking into consideration that they might lose their job or they might have health issues and those kinds of things. So we always have to acknowledge what I refer to as the boogeyman in the bushes and see what we can do, hopefully, to avoid those. Excuse me.
Sure. I know we get choked up when we talk about our finances too, but a lot of it too is I think people that we're talking financial security, but then you also mentioned independence. Are they the same things or
No,
no, they're
absolutely not.
not. Okay.
No, no. And that goes to my comment earlier about in my definition of financial security, I'm in control of everything.
Okay.
But we know, pardon me, that there's a lot of life that we don't get to control. And so I think that as we divide our strategy to identify and say, okay, I have enough, or I know what number I need to feel that I've got enough. I think that the part of that exercise is figuring out where our independence ends, and depending on the economy, depending on interest rates, depending on our health, depending on our life expectancy. As I've said, I think every time we've talked, I remind you that women tend to outlive our male counterparts. So the bad thing is that as women, we tend to earn less money, we tend to save less money, we tend to take breaks in our careers for caregiving, and the bad news is that money has to last longer. So acknowledging those things and being prepared and proactive around them can help us have the security and independence, but they're not the same thing.
It's, I guess, yeah, because obviously with we can be speaking in general terms, but in this case, yeah, we are speaking directly to you women, as far as what we have to do to adjust to try to feel secure but also independent at the same time. So one thing you mentioned too is you needing to stretch your retirement dollars further. Um, why is that? And is it something just because you need long-term care, those kinds of things? What differentiates? Oh, now I'm coughing. What
Oh,
different?
is
I know what differentiates women from the pack, I guess.
yeah, well, women, because our life expectancy tends to be longer,
Hmm.
we are more likely to need long-term care, some kind of support as we age, and that can be incredibly expensive. Acknowledging that early means that we can start setting up reserves to help pay for that. Perhaps we delegate that risk to an insurance company and buy insurance that would help with those kinds of expenses. The the solution is not going to be the same for everyone, but what's going to be detrimental to everyone is not acknowledging that potential.
Okay. And also, too, women, because I'm thinking about a very good friend of mine who's 24/7 right now as a caregiver for her
Hmm.
parents. So
Hmm.
that's also an issue, too,
Sure.
I would imagine, right?
Well, that's probably taking her out of the workforce and reducing her likelihood of having enough for herself.
Yeah, she's reverting
Um,
to day trading. So
I
I don't know if that's a good thing.
I hope that's working. But
Yeah.
and I've seen many financial plans where folks expect an inheritance, and that can be sabotaged by their parents needing additional care. So, using up resources, I've seen it more than once over my many years doing this, where people had assumed there would be an inheritance, and in fact, instead ended up supporting their parents financially, contributing to their
Yeah,
parents.
and
So
that's where their money is going to is the long-term
yeah,
care.
yeah.
Yeah. I know because that's the thing, I'm thinking of myself, where I do feel, and I'm not spending a lot of money, that kind of thing too, but I do always feel like, okay, I need to make more money. I need to do this, do that. So I don't know if I'm ever going to be free of that feeling, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier, is we've got some people there's just not a big enough number. But I feel it's very reassuring if people have a number in mind that is based on fact and consideration, what their lifestyle will be like, what their lifestyle may be like, unplanned things will alter, and then being strategic about getting there. I've talked to many people who come in with a number in mind, and when I
Mm-hmm.
ask them what's that based on, well, that's my friend told me, or my coworker's father retired with this much money. It's not
Right. I read it
necessarily.
somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I'm of an age where $1 million was a ton of money. And if you were able to retire with $1 million in the bank, boy, you were guaranteed to have a great life.
Set for life.
Um,
Yeah.
and to me, $1 million is still a ton of money. But is it enough to sustain? Maybe people are spending 30 years in retirement,
Yeah.
that if you're not keeping up with inflation, etc., that $1 million may not actually be enough. I'm curious to go through the process and determine exactly what is enough for you. But
Yeah.
just
But
that
that's,
boilerplate number is not necessarily going to serve you.
yeah, it's interesting too because for you as a financial planner, when people come in, do you do sort of a long-term kind of chart or something to try to determine?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a whole formula, algorithm, whatever you want to call it, that you can
Yeah.
help people to, I guess, to allay any fears that they might have.
Well, and the fun part of the work that we do is we do what if scenarios. So we start with what folks say, this is my ideal scenario. This is what I'd love my life to look like till the end of my life. How much money would I need?
Okay.
And what does that money need to be doing between now and then? So that's a great place to start, but then we start throwing in the what ifs. What
Okay.
if I retire earlier? What if I live on less? What if I lose my spouse and their pension and or Social Security income goes away? How does that alter my life? I speak to women on that particular topic a lot because women tend to end their lives living alone. So
Okay.
there's not necessarily a second income. Um, our counterparts, of course, there are certain expenses that go along with just being alive, but taking them out of the picture, and then losing their Social Security benefits or their pension or that kind of thing tends to be more detrimental. It tends to be a
Very
step backwards. They
disruptive.
just they don't eat that much,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so anticipating that, should we talk about life insurance to replace that income?
Yeah, that's
Or
been a
should we anticipate that if you're alone, you will move and reduce your living expenses? So we can just kind of talk through those things, and we can illustrate them. And eventually we come up with a plan and strategies that we can live with.
wonderful. You are here obviously to guide us every step of the way, but you have a step by step plan for women when it comes to reaching some sort of a financial secure feeling. So, step one, take
Well, my
control, right? Or take
right,
control of your
yeah.
money.
Take control of your money. Do the work. Create the spending plan. Manage your debt and your credit wisely. I'm not saying don't take on debt or credit, but be smart and proactive about it. Make sure it's serving you well. Set your financial goals. Make those a priority. Implement the savings or investment strategies to meet them. and be willing to review them at least annually, at the very least once a year. This is a great time as we start the year to be doing that because we're probably getting statements, year-end statements and things, preparing to have our taxes. Um, Having all the data right in front of us is a real good time to just check in, make sure that we're on track, and see if adjustments need to be made.
Yeah, you mentioned the word investments. It's good to become a knowledgeable investor, either on
Absolutely,
your
yeah.
own or perhaps with help, like someone like yourself. Yeah, is that something that people are willing to do?
Most people are. I think women really, again, back to being a numbers nerd, statistically, when women decide to invest, their portfolios outperform their male counterparts.
Oh,
And there's a lot of rationale as to why that may be true, but generally women are less impulsive when they're making investments, so they might come up, be exposed to an investment idea. Chances are very good that they're going to explore it
yeah.
and really understand it before they put their money into it. And then having made that commitment, they're going to ride out the ups and downs and be less impulsive about getting out. So the buy low, sell high philosophy tends to work better for women than men who tend to be a little bit more competitive and a little bit more impulsive. So
Oh.
as we talk to women, we encourage them to be knowledgeable investors because they're likely going to be very good at it.
Yeah, that they're a little more gonna explore the details of it, I suppose, or really before they start spending their money, they're gonna be smart
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
And saving as much as you can for retirement, obviously,
Yeah.
starting
Oh,
whenever. Start
starting
now.
whenever, yeah. You can make a lot of mistakes. You can face a lot of hardships that are beyond your control and still succeed if you start early enough. Time is your greatest ally in any kind of a strategy to reach a financial goal.
I keep thinking like, gosh, if they only start teaching this stuff in school, people
Yeah.
have would have such a great head start. But you also talk about advocating for yourself in the workplace. What do you mean by
Yes.
that? Yeah.
Being sure that you are being compensated fairly for the work that you're doing. Um, there are a lot of resources online that allow you to compare your job description and by your location. That's a critical part of it. But just making sure that you are well paid for the good work that you do and not being afraid to go to your employer and negotiate if you find that you're not.
Yeah. And also it's good too, maybe always kind of seeking out other career opportunities. It's always better to find something new while you're working
Right.
than when
Well,
you're, when you're not
it's
working.
about, yeah, it's about knowing your worth
Yeah.
and not being afraid to advocate for yourself. And I actually teach a salary negotiation class, and it's
Oh,
real
wow.
interesting because probably the greatest strength that these women come away with is the mindset that this is not an adversarial conversation.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
employer does not want to have to replace you and train someone else. They really do want you to stay, and you want to be paid for what you're worth. So these are two like minds. We just have to come up with the right number, and there are some ways to do that. So advocating for yourself in the workplace,
Yep.
it's critical, and be proud of it. And know your market value. If you can't come to a fair conclusion, know your market value outside of your current plan.
That's great. And which it ties in also too, where you're constantly um, updating your skills. That is very
Yeah,
important too. Is
keeping your
to
skills.
Yeah, and
And
I'm
we
keep
we
thinking this
talked.
with like AI right now that I need to be, taking classes to keep up to speed. But in
Yeah.
this context, yeah, even if you're, you know, at home or you're raising children, always kind of stay fresh.
making sure that you're marketable. That's something that I really wanted to emphasize is if you're staying home, maybe to care for family members, your children, parents, what for whatever reason, more and more people are doing homeschooling now,
Okay.
and that's great, but those kids eventually will leave the nest, and your skills need to be marketable. So, yeah, even if you're at home taking classes online or whatever resources you might come up with, making sure that you still are able to earn a living if you need to.
Yeah. And taking classes such as the one that you're teaching too. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
learning how to negotiate. That's a tough skill, but it's so important. I'm
It's
still,
funny because I don't go to yard sales or when we travel. I hate the haggling over price. I'm
yeah,
just such a black and white personality. Why would I sell it to you for $4 if I labeled it $5? Obviously, I think I want $5.
right.
But I have no hesitation at all about going to an employment situation and saying, I know what I'm worth.
Yeah.
It's just black and white.
There's no questions asked, but how important is it to protect your assets?
Well, it's hugely important. We talked a minute ago about reliance on your income or perhaps your spouse or partner's income. If you establish that to get to that enough number that you're going to need those things, um, be thinking about ways to replace them if one were to be lost. I mentioned life insurance.
Yeah.
Um, your good health and ability to go to work every day may lead you to think perhaps a disability insurance policy would make sense that would continue to pay you if you weren't able to work for health reasons.
Okay.
So doing all of I always say the best investment that anyone can make is in their health. So
Yes.
being smart about how we eat and how we take care of ourselves is always going to give us the greatest financial return, better than any stock will ever give you.
Yeah, exactly. I got to keep telling myself that too. It's like, so after this, I'm gonna go walk or do the Peloton or something. But and then one last thing, as part of your step by step plan, specifically for women in getting to financial security, is creating an estate plan.
Mhm.
What
Yeah,
exactly does that entail, and when should you do that? Is there a certain age that you should have one of those put
you
together?
know what? As soon as your parents are not legally
Yeah, okay.
able to be responsible for you, we we think of an estate plan as something that wealthy people need to avoid estate taxes or set up their foundations or something. Really, an estate plan is a matter of saying, this is my stuff
Yep.
and it needs to care for me. Once I'm gone, I want these things to happen. But in the meantime, having all of your documents current and in order. Again, a healthcare power of attorney. If you weren't able to advocate for yourself in a healthcare situation, make sure you've named the right person to do that. Perhaps it includes a financial power of attorney. Again, if for some reason you weren't able to do things, that there's someone who is knowledgeable and trustworthy, able to continue and maintain this wonderful plan that you went to such trouble to create, making sure that that's sustainable. So those estate documents are really a very important part of that enough goal.
That having enough. So all
Yeah.
right, so ultimately what is our bottom line goal here, that we, after talking about all these steps and understanding the difference between security and independence, what's our ultimate goal?
You know what I think we've talked about two very important words. We've talked about enough. We've talked
Mm-hmm.
about independence. What I would love to leave every woman with is the goal is the word confidence, knowing that you have the resources to do this. You might hire a financial planner, a financial professional to be a coach and work with you on
Be
this,
part of your
but
team. Yeah.
you need to be invested in this, the whole process. and be willing to have conversations about what might go wrong. But also, this is an opportunity to decide what's important to you and where your assets and energy and attention need to be focused. And just commit to that and have the confidence that you deserve it, that you're going to be better member of our community and our society. You'll be a better parent, grandparent, partner, etc., all as a result of having done this. It's simply a matter of having the confidence to start it and maintain it.
Yep. It's like you start out with a little bit of confidence, but once you do this, then just think,
Yeah.
you're got confidence for days, months, years. That's
And
the best.
and consider anytime we make a mistake, it's not a failure, it's a lesson. And so, oh, good, I've learned that lesson. I don't have to do that again
Right.
because as long as I've learned, I'm thinking in terms of enough right now. It's very simple, but I'm going to, when I leave work today, I'm going to meet my sisters-in-law for a concert. I'm looking forward to a great evening.
Yep.
And as I think about the enoughs, you know what? I don't have enough gas in my car.
I
So
never
a
do
very
either.
short-term solution is stop at the gas station, which means I need to leave a little bit early.
Yep.
So I'll have enough time to get gas, still be on time. And do I have enough money to pay for the gas? So there's a bunch of enoughs that are going to lead me to have a lovely evening with
Evening.
a couple of women that I adore.
Yeah. You just have to do a little pre-planning, right?
Yeah, yeah, just think about just acknowledge what, and if I didn't have enough time, enough gas, or enough money, I better have a plan B. I better
Yep.
get them to my house, we'll have pasta and we'll sing.
All right, I'll be right over.
Okay, come on over.
Exactly. So, well, the thing is you don't women need to understand you don't have to do this alone. There are
No,
people out there like such as yourself to help you on this path to financial security. So, Catherine,
but
thank you.
I certainly encourage everybody to do their own research,
Yep.
but remember that there is a place for professionals, a reason for professionals, and just make sure that they're part of the team. You don't delegate all the power.
Yep. That's that exactly. That's a good thing to leave us with. So Catherine, thank you once again for helping us with all of our financial concerns and being empowered. We appreciate you so much. So
And I enjoy being here. Thank you, Stacey.
thank you. Now, to learn more about Catherine and her financial tips, just go to thewomenseye.com. And there you'll also find our books, 20 Women Changemakers. You can just shop wherever you buy books and at changemakersbook.com, and 20 Women Storytellers at womenstorytellersbook.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter and our YouTube channel. Just let us know your comments, questions, likes, dislikes. We would love to hear from you. Again, thanks, Catherine, and to all of you for tuning into the Women's Eye podcast. Keep building your money power. I'm Stacey Gualandi. Remember, it's the world as we see it.